My daughter begged me to fund her wedding, then secretly planned to ban me from attending. So I quietly canceled everything, and she never saw it coming. Hello Reddit I plus here. My name is Daniel, I'm 52 years old, and I never thought the deepest wound of my life would come not from my ex-wife, but from my own daughter. When my daughter Emily was little, she was my shadow. She'd grab my hand and tug me along to the park, beg me to buy her ice cream even when it was raining, and chatter endlessly about her dreams. Back then, I thought we had the kind of bond that couldn't be broken. I'd read her bedtime stories, take her to the movies on Friday nights, and she'd tell me things she wouldn't even share with her mother. But when Emily was 12, everything started falling apart. My wife, Lauren, cheated on me with a coworker. The divorce that followed was bitter and ugly. And though I tried to shield Emily from the worst of it, Lauren made sure her version of events poisoned every conversation. By the time Emily was 15, she refused to answer my calls. When I showed up at her school, she told me point blank, "Dad, I don't want to see you anymore. You're the reason Mom's unhappy. Please, just leave me alone." Those words shattered me. I went home that night and sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the photos of us smiling together at the zoo, at the beach, at her first ballet recital. I couldn't reconcile that little girl with the teenager who wanted nothing to do with me. I tried everything. Letters, birthday cards, voicemails that went unanswered. Eventually, I realized my efforts were making it worse, so I stepped back. I told myself that if Emily ever wanted to find me, I'd be here. But waiting hurt. I carried that emptiness every single day. So much so that I ended up in therapy just to process the grief of losing a living child. Then, this past spring, something changed. Out of nowhere, I received a text message. It was Emily. She wrote, "Hi Dad, I know it's been a long time. I'm getting married in a few months. I'd like you to be there." I nearly dropped my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I could hardly type back. I read her message at least 10 times before responding. For the first time in years, I felt hope again. We agreed to meet for lunch at a small Italian restaurant we used to go to when she was little. I remember how her face used to light up over the lasagna there. But when she walked in this time, she barely made eye contact. She gave me a stiff hug, like she was embracing a stranger. "Emily," I said softly, "you look beautiful. It's so good to see you." She smiled politely, then quickly shifted the conversation toward her wedding. At first, I thought she just wanted to share her excitement, but then she leaned forward and said, almost casually, "Dad, I was hoping you could help with the wedding expenses. It's really important to me that it's perfect." I assumed she meant a contribution, maybe a few thousand. But the more we talked, the more I realized she wanted me to pay for nearly everything. Venue, catering, flowers, music, even the honeymoon deposit. I hesitated, staring at the numbers she'd scribbled on a notepad. The total was almost as much as my entire life savings. "Emily, this is a lot," I said carefully. Her face tightened. "Dad, it's my wedding. Don't you want to do this for me? Don't you want to make up for all the years you weren't there?" That sentence pierced me straight through the chest. I swallowed my pride, nodded, and agreed, because deep down, I was terrified. Terrified that if I said no, she'd vanish from my life again. Over the next few months, I poured everything I had into that wedding. I drained savings I'd been building for retirement. I even took out a loan I could barely afford. Every check I signed, every bill I paid. I told myself it was worth it if it meant Emily wanted me in her life again. But something gnawed at me. Whenever I called to ask about dress fittings or flowers, she barely responded. She never asked how I was doing. She only ever called when another payment was due. Still, I pushed away the doubts. This was my daughter. She wouldn't use me. She couldn't. Then, 3 days before the wedding, I heard a knock at my door. It was Robert, my ex-wife's brother, a man I hadn't spoken to in nearly a decade. He looked uneasy, almost guilty, as he stood on my porch. "Dan," he said, "can I come in? We need to talk." I let him in, worried something had happened to Emily, but what he told me was worse than anything I could have imagined. Robert sat heavily on my couch, rubbed his temples, and finally looked me in the eye. "Your daughter, she never planned on inviting you. She and Lauren told the whole family that you weren't welcome. They just wanted your money. The plan was for you to pay, but for you to find out last minute that you couldn't attend." I couldn't keep quiet anymore. You deserve to know. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The room spun. My chest felt like it was collapsing inward. My own daughter, my Emily, the little girl who once held my hand and begged me to stay 5 more minutes at the park. She had taken everything I had left, and still, I wasn't even worth a chair at her wedding. I sat in silence for a long time, while Robert just shook his head. Finally, I whispered, "Not anymore." The very next morning, I called every vendor, every planner, every venue manager, and I canceled every last payment. The deposits were gone, sure, but the remaining balances were in my hands. Without my funding, that grand wedding Emily had planned crumbled instantly, and she had no idea. After I canceled everything, the silence in my house felt heavier than ever. For days, I sat at the dining table with a knot in my stomach, wondering how Emily would react when the wedding plans started falling apart. I didn't have to wait long. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed at nearly midnight. It was Emily. Her voice on the other end was frantic, shrill, and laced with fury. "Dad! What the hell did you do?" I took a deep breath. "I don't know what you mean, sweetheart. Don't play dumb with me. The venue just called. They said payments were reversed. The caterer canceled. The florist, too. Did you seriously just back out of everything?" Her words stung, but not nearly as much as the word she didn't use. She didn't say please. She didn't say, "Dad, can we talk?" She went straight to rage, because to her, I wasn't a father. I was a wallet. "Yes," I said evenly. "I canceled it all, because I finally learned the truth, Emily. You and your mother never intended to let me attend, did you?" The line went dead silent. For a second, I thought she hung up, but then I heard her sharp inhale. "Who told you that?" she demanded. "It doesn't matter who. What matters is that I know. You used me." My voice cracked despite how hard I tried to stay calm. "I spent everything I had, thinking I was doing it to be part of your life again. And all along, you were planning to shut me out." She scoffed. A sound so cold it didn't even sound like the little girl I remembered. "You don't get it, do you? Mom was right. You were never there for me. This was your chance to finally do something for me, and you blew it. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? My whole wedding is ruined." That broke something inside me. Not once did she mention love, reconciliation, or regret. Just embarrassment. Just anger at losing her big party. I clenched my jaw, fighting back tears. "Emily, I wasn't trying to buy your love. I just wanted my daughter back. But now I see that all you wanted was my money. You're unbelievable," she snapped. "Don't bother showing your face again. You're dead to me." And then she hung up. I sat there in the dark, phone still in my hand, heart hammering in my chest. Those final words echoed in my head like a curse. Dead to me. The next morning, I expected to feel regret, maybe guilt, but instead, there was a strange calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't chasing after her affection. I wasn't bleeding myself dry for a daughter who no longer cared whether I lived or died. But my story didn't end there, because the ripple effects were far bigger than I imagined. 2 days later, I got another call. This time from Robert, my ex-brother-in-law. His voice was low, almost guilty again. "Dan, I don't know if you've heard, but the wedding's off." "Completely what?" I asked, startled. "Emily's fiancé, Tyler, he found out about everything. About how she and Lauren tricked you. About how the whole plan was to take your money and cut you out. He said if she could do that to her own father, then she'd do it to him too. He called off the engagement last night." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The irony was suffocating. Emily had spent years turning away from me, manipulating me, using me, and in the end, it destroyed the very future she was chasing. Robert sighed. "I'm sorry, Dan. I know this isn't the outcome you wanted, but maybe it's what she needed to learn." Weeks passed. I didn't hear from Emily. Not a word. Not a text. Nothing. But one evening, there was another knock at my door. This time, when I opened it, Emily stood there. She wasn't dressed up. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red and swollen. She looked small. For the first time in years, she looked like my little girl again. "Dad," her voice cracked. "Can I come in?" I hesitated. Every instinct in me wanted to protect myself, to slam the door, to remind her of every cruel thing she had said. But she was still my daughter. So I stepped aside. She sat at the table, staring at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry, it wasn't much." But it was the first honest thing she'd said to me in a very long time. "I didn't think you'd care," she continued. "Mom always said you didn't. When you agreed to pay, I thought it was your way of making up for leaving us. But when Tyler left me, I realized maybe I've been wrong." I leaned forward, my voice soft but firm. "Emily, I never left you. I wanted to be there. Every day I tried. I loved you through it all. It was you who pushed me away. And I let you. Because I thought one day, you'd come back when you were ready. But using me? That wasn't readiness. That was cruelty." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want to try again. For real this time. Not for money. Not for a wedding. Just, as your daughter I studied her. My heart torn between hope and caution. Could I trust her again? Or would I only be hurt once more?" Finally I sighed. Trying again means starting small. It means honesty. It means respect. "Can you do that?" She nodded quickly, wiping her face. "Yes, Dad, I can." The road to reconciliation wasn't instant. Trust isn't rebuilt in a single night. But for the first time in over a decade, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't completely invisible to my own child anymore. And even if the scars would always remain, I realized something important. I had taken back my dignity. I was no longer just a wallet. I was her father. Whether she chose to honor that or not was now up to her. For a little while after that night, things seemed better. Emily called me occasionally, sometimes even just to ask how my day was. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Then one Saturday afternoon, she showed up at my house, this time with Lauren, my ex-wife, right behind her. The sight of the two of them standing on my porch made my stomach twist. Lauren's smile was thin, calculated. "Daniel," she said smoothly, "we were just in the neighborhood and thought we'd stop by. We all need to talk against my better judgment." I let them in. At the table, Emily fidgeted, while Lauren spoke for both of them. "You know," Lauren began, "the wedding falling apart was really hard on Emily, but it doesn't have to end this way. There's still a chance to rebook, to make things right. All you'd need to do is..." "Stop." I raised a hand, my voice sharper than I expected. "If you came here to ask for money again, you can leave right now." Emily's eyes darted to her mother, then back to me. "Dad, it's not like that. We just thought, if you could help one more time." I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "No," I said firmly. "Not one more time. Not ever again. I gave everything I had, not just my money but my trust, and both of you threw it back in my face. I won't play the fool anymore." Lauren's smile faltered. "Daniel, don't be dramatic. You owe Emily, you owe me. After everything," I cut her off. "The only thing I owed was love for my daughter, and I gave it. What you did was poison her against me for years. What she did was use me when I thought I had her back." "I'm done." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Dad, please," but I shook my head. "If you ever want a real relationship with me, it won't start with manipulation, and it won't involve your mother. Until then, I'm walking away." I grabbed my keys, opened the front door, and stepped aside. Out. For once, Lauren was speechless. Emily lingered for a moment, her lips trembling like she wanted to say something, but in the end, she followed her mother out. When the door shut behind them, the silence felt different than before. Not heavy, not lonely. Free. Because for the first time in years, I chose myself.